If you're associated with a project in Central and have the Manage Builds permission, there are a few things you can do with the generated output for a target. First, you can set one or more builds in the target to the live status. This means that the output can be viewed by the public. Let's say you have a license called FictionSoft. Your default vanity URL would therefore be fictionsoft.mcoutput.com. Maybe you have a project called Module 1 and you generate an HTML5 target in that project. After viewing the output, you decide that you want to make it accessible to your end users. Therefore, in Central, you select the checkbox next to that build and click this button to set it to live. A little icon displays next to that build so that you know it's published. If you click this arrow, the build row expands, showing more information. In this area, you can see the final live URL for the output using your license vanity. You can provide this URL to your end users so they can see the output. By default, an ID will be automatically generated to represent your target. However, you can get custom text for this part of the URL if you like. This can be done at the target or build level. If you want to set it for the target, click here. Then in the menu, select Edit Vanity. Enter a vanity, such as an abbreviated form of the project and target names, then click Save. All builds in the target will therefore use that same vanity. Setting a vanity at the build level can be useful if you need to produce multiple versions of output from the same target. This is useful if you have version numbers for your outputs, such as version 1, version 2, version 3, and so on. If you want to set a vanity for a build, click the checkbox next to that build and select this button. Enter a vanity, such as an abbreviated form of the project and target names, followed by a version number, then click Save. If you have a vanity set at both the target and the build level, the build vanity will be used. When you're finished, your final live URL will look something like this. The license vanity is here, and the target or build vanity is here. You also have the option of mapping your Central license to your company's domain. For more about that, see the video License Settings Part 2, URL Options. Now suppose that after some time you make several changes to your Flare project and you're ready to build output again. After generating and viewing your new output in Central, you decide to set this build to live. You see the publish icon next to the new build. Not only that, but the older build that was set to live now has a checkmark next to it. This means that the older build is no longer live. Instead, it is set to keep. The same URL is used, but now your end users will see the newer output instead of the older output. So when a live setting is removed from a build, the keep setting is automatically applied to it, but you can also apply the keep setting to any other builds manually by selecting the checkbox next to the build and clicking this button. Why would you use the keep setting? Well, it primarily has to do with deleting builds. Because generated output can take up a lot of space on the server over time, deleting unused builds is a good way to free up that space. However, you might have some builds that you don't want to set as live, but you also want to prevent them from accidentally being deleted. For example, let's say that one day someone points out an embarrassing error in your new output. You don't want to keep that output published while you work on fixing the problem, so you decide to quickly roll back to the previous output. So you select that older build that's currently set as keep, and you select this Set as Live button. You'll see that the older build is now live, and the newer one has been changed to keep. After fixing the problem in your local Flare project, you push the changes up to Central. Then you build output for that target once more. Next, you select that build and set it to live. This returns the older build to a keep status. Just in case there's a problem with the newest build, you decide that the oldest build should continue to have a keep status. After all, you might need to roll back to it once again. But the other build where the problem existed can now be deleted because it's no longer doing anything but taking up space. So you select that build and click the Keep button. This removes the checkmark, and you can now delete that build. There are a couple of additional features you might want to use when it comes to output. First, you'll notice that every build in a target has something called a private URL. This is the case for all builds, even those that have not been set to live or keep. This URL is auto-generated for each build and can be used to share the output with others in your organization. For example, you might want to give reviewers or subject matter experts a sneak peek at your output before it's published to everyone. So you give the private URL to those individuals. Only people who are users on your license will be able to use the URL. The general public cannot see that output. Also, there might be times when you want to hide your published output from search engines. Let's go back to the idea of having multiple versions of published output from the same target. By default, end users performing an internet search will see results for both versions. But maybe you prefer that they only find results for the most recent output, version 2. In that case, you can open the settings for the version 1 build. In the dialog, remove the checkmark from the Include in Search Engines box. Now, when users perform a Google search, they will only find results for the version 2 documentation.